Good morning and welcome back to We the Future. I'm Bryce Wheeler, and we have got a really good show for you today. You probably have been wondering, we haven't put out an episode in a couple of weeks. There's a couple good reasons why, and I'm going to get into those here shortly, but we are back and we are going to be doing a couple new and exciting things. So I've got some announcements in regard to those. Announcement number one, we're going to be releasing an episode Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of every single week. So we're no longer doing twice a week. We're now switching to 3 times a week. We're going to talk about the reason why that's happening here shortly. But first, we've got a lot to cover. If you're just listening to the podcast episode today, I would encourage you to check us out on Rumble or YouTube for the sole purpose of we are in a brand new studio. So we're no longer recording these episodes in an office space. We're now in a podcast recording studio. And so it's a new look for sure. But if you're just listening, grateful that you are here regardless. But we've got some good stuff to go into. We've got 2 weeks of news to basically recap and cover, and a lot new stories that are happening today, right now. And so let's dive into it. I'm Bryce Wheeler, and welcome back to We the Future. Let's go. All right, let's dive in. We've got some good stuff for you all today. We're in a new studio, like I mentioned before. Kind of exciting. New space, new look. We'll continue to add to it and build to it. We've got our Christmas tree set up. If you're watching, you can obviously enjoy that. And we also have a couple things hung up and behind me. So pretty cool little space. But let's dive into a few quick announcements. So instead of doing episodes every Tuesday and Thursday like we normally have, I've decided that I want to add a third episode each week. So therefore we are moving our episodes to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Reason why: in the last couple of weeks that I've taken off, first and foremost, I took off the first week because it was Thanksgiving. I was hoping to put out an episode, never got around to it, got really busy, wanted to just spend some time with the family and focus on the holiday and the season that we were in. So I did that. Second week, or last week, reason why I took it off was we were getting this all built, getting it set up, designed, built it, all that fun stuff. And because I took a while to really think about what I wanted this whole podcast, this process, this adventure, this whole project to look like. So we've usually just covered, normal topics in the news, discuss them, talk about them, give a good recap, share my thoughts, and that's usually been it. But recently I had the really cool opportunity to go see a podcast hero, if you can call him that. Somebody that I really look up to speak live last week here in Utah. And it really opened my eyes to add a little extra feature or segment or just a different direction that I wanted to take the podcast. So without any further ado, what we're going to be doing is every week I will give you my thoughts. We'll talk about the news, all that good stuff. But every Wednesday episode, we will have a guest on. Now, I say every Wednesday, the goal is to have a guest on every single week, but we will see what we can do. We've got right now about 5 or 6 guests lined up, which I know will start next week. So we'll have our first guest on for next week on Wednesday, but I want to be able to just sit down and talk with people that have areas of expertise, whether it's political, whether it's spiritual, whether it's just, economical. I want to be able to add a little bit more value. And I feel the best way to accomplish that is to bring people on the show that can really provide Just essentially that, more value for all of you. But we're going to dive into more stories on our own by myself, with us, the camera, the microphone, and all that jazz. But we're going to have some guests on, and so it's going to provide, I think, a little cool addition to the podcast. So that's what we've got cooking up for all of you. And I'm really excited for that, to hear people's opinions, perspective, have them talk about things that they're passionate about, but also talk about things that they have a lot of expertise in. So it's going to be fun, and we're going to obviously be edified together with that. Without further ado, like I said before, we've got a lot to dive into today. There's a lot happening in the news. There's a lot that happened in the news over the last 2 weeks that we never really got a chance to talk to. So I just kind of want to give a brief overview, not for your sake, because you're probably really in tune to what's happening politically, but overall, I just want to give a brief overview for my own sake. So let's back up and talk about what some news that's happening. And then we'll dive into what's happening today, this week, currently, and get into all of that. So obviously there was a really tragic event that happened in Washington, D.C. a couple weeks ago. We had 2 National Guard members that were shot and killed. Horrible, horrible accident, just horrible attack. I think, yeah, I mean, anytime something like this happens in America, it's a sad day, but it's especially sad when it's somebody that does it that's not from our country. When it's somebody who's not here legally, somebody who didn't come here through the right process or the right system. It just goes to show you exactly what a lot of us have been saying for a while. And one of the many reasons why we voted for Trump, it was to handle situations like this. And I got to tell you, I have not been impressed with what's going on with Trump at all. His whole take and his whole process of getting rid of people who are here illegally, it's not been something that's been what was promised. When he was on the campaign trail, he told us that he was going to come in and, hammer to the ground, fist to the table. He was going to lay down the law, build the wall, put order back into the border control and to the entire system, and then just deport the masses. And we're not really doing that. We're not doing that. I saw a statistic the other day where if we continue on the same trend of deporting, I don't know, let's look it up here. I saw some chart or graph. Let's see here. Saw some chart or graph that was just saying that there's not a lot of deportations that are happening, right? So right now, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to find it, but we had millions of people come into the United States during the Biden administration. And right now, we're not having anywhere near what we need in order to keep up with how many people we had come in. I can't find it. But it was something along the lines of like, we have only a couple hundred, or maybe it was even 1,000 people that are coming, or people that are, being deported every single day. That if we keep up with this trend of only being able to deport that many people per day, we're never going to reach the number of how many people came here illegally in the Biden administration. It'll take us like 30 or 35 years if we're only deporting that many people. And I don't think it was per day. I apologize. I think it was per week. Long story short, it's just not happening fast enough. And I think that's very evident. I feel fine saying that overall people aren't impressed with what's happening when it comes to the deportations. Now, I know there's a lot that has to happen, and there's a lot of different people and organizations and groups of people that are pushing back on the deportations, but I don't think it's not happening the way that I think a lot of Americans who voted for Trump are wanting it to happen. And we're going to talk about why I think Trump is aware of this, based off of some things that he's said recently in the news this week. So we're going to jump into it, but there's a big, big debate, a big problem, a big situation that's happening right now in the state of Minnesota in regard to just a ton of Somali people that are in that state. They're overrunning cities. They're overrunning the state. We've got so many different, I think it was the mayor of Minnesota he's speaking Somalian or Somali at press conferences. He's doing half of it in their language, half of it in English. He's refusing a bunch of different mandates that Trump has written. He's refusing a bunch of different laws. And overall, there's a lot of Somali people right now in the state of Minnesota. And the reason why this is a big deal is because those people, they're not coming to America and they're looking for a better life. That's point blank. It's pretty simple, pretty cut and dry. But they're coming here and they don't integrate. They bring their culture over. Their culture is not a culture that's a Christian culture. Their culture isn't one of bringing in any value, in my opinion, to the American culture, to the American people. It's one that is, as Trump put it, it's garbage. They're garbage people is what Trump said. And I'm not going to say I fully agree with that statement, but I would agree with that statement in the sense of, yeah, if you're not coming to America to assimilate and to be a part of our culture, and you're just bringing your culture, it's the same thing that all of us have probably heard 1,000 times. If you import the third world, you'll become the third world, right? And America is a Christian nation. It really is. Whether we see that more or less right now, I think more people are waking up to the idea that this is a Christian country and we have to abide by and to live by Christian values. And if we're allowing all of these people to come to America, whether it's legally or illegally, you're going to start waking up one day and realizing that the country that you know and love is not the same country. Now, I'm completely fine with allowing people into the country who are willing to bring value and willing to completely leave their culture behind, adopt the American culture, the American way, to live the American dream, to pay their taxes, to be able to live in the communities and to be an upstanding citizen in the communities. I'm all for that if they do it the legal way. But if we're importing to the masses, if we're just bringing so many people in, there's a lot of different things that's going to happen. And we're already seeing that in Minnesota. And Trump is calling it out. And look, whether I'm right or wrong, I call it like I see it. Trump recently said that he believes that they're a garbage people. He calls out he calls out their entire culture and says that he's pausing everything with what happened with the National Guardsmen, the two of them being shot and killed. He's basically deciding that he is now going to just completely pause all applications for migrants from 19 different nations. So, and these include a couple different countries that are pretty well known, like Afghanistan and Somalia. And so just reading a little bit right here, it says the Trump administration is pausing all immigration applications, such as requests for green cards for people from 19 countries banned from travel earlier this year as part of sweeping immigration changes in the wake of the shooting of two National Guard troops. The changes were outlined in a policy memo posted Tuesday on the website of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the agency tasked with processing and approving all requests for immigration benefits. The pause puts on hold a wide range of immigration-related decisions, such as green card applications or naturalizations for immigrants from those 19 countries that the Trump administration has described as high risk. It's up to the agency's director, Joseph Edlow, on when to lift the pause, the memo says. So here are the countries, that the ban applies to. So it applies to Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, the Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. So there's a lot of different countries and people that are going to be affected by this. But the reason why this is happening is because of the high risk that is there by bringing these people over, right? The agency cited the shooting of the 2 National Guard's troops by a suspect who is an Afghan national as a reason for the pause and heightened scrutiny for people from those countries. 1 National Guard soldier was killed and another wounded in the Thanksgiving week shooting near the White House. Now, look, you can have your own opinion on this, but the fact of the matter is the same. During the Biden administration, we saw not only just millions of illegal immigrants enter our country, but we saw hundreds of thousands, if not a million, of illegal immigrants that were military-aged men from Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, all of these other countries, Somalia, Haiti. It's worrisome for this exact reason, because now you have all of these military-aged men and women, but military-aged men who are here in the country who we have no idea where they are. They could be in sleeper cells just waiting for the call, waiting for the attack to happen. They can be plotting anything and everything that they want. And this just goes to show you exactly what can happen. You can have a crazed gunman go out in Washington, D.C. the week of Thanksgiving, not far from the White House, and open fire and kill 1 and wound another National Guard troop. So this should frighten all of us. And this is something that we should be calling on Trump to do way more than what he already is doing. Now, Trump standing up and calling these people garbage and calling it out and being pretty crass and rude. This is the 2016 Trump that all of us at the time loved, because he wasn't a politician. He wasn't somebody who would sugarcoat it or fluff it or politicize it. He would just say it like it is. And in my opinion, I think Trump is realizing that there's a big divide that's happening right now in the Republican base for many different reasons, which we're going to get into. And I think when Trump comes out and says that the Somali people are garbage and we're going to crack down, and he calls out, what's her name? Trying to remember her name. Ilhan Omar, he calls her out. She obviously is a U.S. representative for Minnesota, but he calls her out and basically says that she's constantly wearing her hijab and she's disgusting and her and the Somali people are garbage. When he says stuff like this, he's pandering to us. I think maybe he means it, maybe he doesn't, but based off of everything that he's doing right now, I truly, truly believe that he's just pandering to us. He's saying what he thinks he needs to say in order to spark a response out of us to say, you know what? Yeah, Trump's right. Yeah, these people are garbage. And yeah, Trump's back to doing what he's normally doing and back to doing what we love him to do, which is to take charge, to support the American people, to actually do what we voted him into office to do. I don't think that's going to change anything, right? Now, obviously, there's this travel ban, and he obviously is pausing any immigration from migrants from these countries. Sure, that's great. But in that same breath, he still is pushing the H-1B visas. He's still allowing students to come to our country in massive amounts. He's still prioritizing that and increasing those visas. So, I mean, if you're going to lock your back door, but you leave your front door wide open, it doesn't really make a whole difference. Or vice versa. You lock your front door, but you leave your back door wide open. somebody's still going to be able to get into your house. It's the same principle. If he's banning or, pausing all of these, immigration applications from these people, great. That's a good thing. I think there needs to be a massive pause, full stop. We're not doing it, regardless of what direction it comes from, front door or back door. We need to pause everything, put a stop to it, and then we need to go through and just clean house. Because right now, we're seeing it happen time and time again. Cities like Portland, cities like Seattle, cities like San Francisco, Minnesota. We're seeing all of these cities just be completely overrun and overtaken by these people that aren't coming to America to assimilate, to add value, to do anything but just to bring their culture into America, accept free money from the American people and the American government to live off of us. They don't work. They don't add any value. They don't do anything that's going to help our country grow or to help the people of this country. They just come in and basically sit on their ass and do nothing but just accept the welfare money, and that's it. And on top of that, the more that they're here and the more children that they have here, those children now have legal status here in America and are citizens, which we can talk about is, in my opinion, horrible. I don't think that should be happening. But on top of that, the more kids that they have and the more kids that they have and raise in their culture and not in the American culture, the longer it's going to take to weed that out of America. Because this is going to be a problem, not just for our current generation, but for generations to come. Because our current rate as white people, just say it how it is, our current rate of childbearing and raising is getting less and less. And you have a ton of different things to blame for that. Obviously, the access to abortion in this country is one of those things. But they breed. They have kids. They pop them out. And so the more kids that they have and the more we allow them to stay here, the more their culture gets stronger and gains, feet and legs. And it's just going to become a bigger and bigger issue. So I think it's great that Trump's pausing everything, but I think him pandering to us, and look, that's my opinion. He's pandering to us. He's telling us what we want to hear so that we can be back on his side, even though he's doing this on one end and then on the opposite end, he's completely supporting so many different countries, especially one in particular that we're going to dive into, one in particular and a bunch of other countries that we don't want to be involved in. He is no longer make America great again. He is no longer America first. He is no longer Americans first. He has completely turned his back on us. And I don't believe he's doing anything for us that is actually benefiting us, the American people, and the American country that we know and love. So let's dive into what we're going to talk about next. All right. So next topic that I want to kind of go over. So I've never talked about it, never covered it for a couple of different reasons. And what I'm talking about is the assassination of Charlie Kirk. He is, I would argue, one of the most influential people of our generation. Outside of politics, in politics, I think his legacy is going to live on for a very, very, very long time. Now, it obviously happened here in Utah, about an hour and 30 minutes away from where I live. It was a big deal and is a big deal, and it's constantly in the news. And when I say constantly in the news, I'm talking about a couple of different things. We're obviously seeing a lot being discussed about Turning Point USA. We're seeing a lot talk about with Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk, and the legacy that he leaves behind. But on top of all of this, we're also seeing what's happening with political commentators, podcasters, YouTubers, whatever you want to call them. There's a sharp line. There's a divide into who is supportive of the questions that are being asked and who are not supportive of the questions. And what I mean by that is I want to talk about Candace Owens, and I want to give my insight. I want to give my opinion on the entire matter. So I'll start by saying this. I support what Candace Owens is doing. I support her entire investigation into the narrative of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, her questioning the motive, who did it. I support her questions into Turning Point USA. I support her questions into Erica Kirk. I support all of that. And I can dive into why that's the case. For years, scratch that, not going to choose that word, for decades, we have been constantly lied to by our government, whether it's our president, our vice president, other elected officials, senators, congressmen and women. We have been lied to by so many of them. And we've also been lied to by these, using the term that my dad taught me growing up, these 3-letter agencies: the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ, the IRS, DHS. We have been lied to for decades. And what I mean by it is this. You ask anybody out there right now, anybody that's part of our generation, right? I'm talking 20s, 30s, and younger. If you ask any of us who assassinated JFK, you get a pretty clear answer. CIA. It's pretty clear, right? You ask anybody around our age who killed the other officials, right? Watergate, right? Who was that? Who was behind that? You ask us who is behind 9/11. I think it's pretty clear that all of us lean to the side of, and maybe you don't, which is fine, but for me, I don't trust any narrative that the United States government gives us. I don't. I really, really don't. Because for decades, we've been lied to on so many different things, on so many different topics. There has been controversy left, right, and center on so many different topics. And so when we hear the FBI in less than 33 hours say that they have completely solved the assassination of Charlie Kirk, they found who did it. It's Tyler Robinson. He's in bars. He's behind jail, and it's over with. The manhunt's over with. I have a really hard time believing that. And that's just me. And once again, call me a conspiracy theorist. I don't care, because at this point, that's a term of endearment for me. I like that. Do it. I don't care. So when we have all of these people who call themselves friends of Charlie Kirk or close friends of Charlie Kirk, when all of these people, whether they work for Turning Point USA or not, all of them come out and say, we trust the narrative. Oh, great, powerful FBI, we trust you. Thank you, Kash Patel, for doing your job and solving this. I don't believe it at all. There's so many inconsistencies within the entire case when you don't have to be smart. You really don't. And I don't mean that to be rude. You don't have to be smart to look at it and say, that doesn't really add up. The math isn't mathing. You don't have to be an intelligent person. You can just look at it and say, there's a lot of holes in this entire story or timeline or, sequence of events that they're feeding us. This just doesn't really pan out. But what we're seeing happen is this. Candace Owens seems to be the only one that is genuinely trusting herself and trusting her resources and investigation into this entire story or plotline. And what we're seeing is so many people turn their back on Candace Owens. So many different people turn their back on the whole idea or narrative of just doing genuine research. Now, me saying I support Candace Owens does not mean that I support and agree with everything that she says. And that's not the case with Charlie Kirk. And what I mean by that is I'm going to pull up a video that Charlie Kirk did. I mean, let me find it real quick. This is a video that I want to watch real quick, because to me, this speaks volumes. And before I go, I'm getting off topic. I'm losing my train of thought. The reason why I'm so passionate about this is because there are so many people who are saying just, in my opinion, the most idiotic things about Candace Owens, about what she's doing, about the actions that she's taking. People that, to me, are exposing not Candace Owens for what she's doing, but exposing themselves for who they truly are, for the type of people that they truly are. If we would have had this much clear-cut evidence in the sense of in our face, it's recorded, we all saw it on TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook. Hell, I got texted like from 5 different people the video of Charlie Kirk being shot within 20 minutes of it happening. If we would have had that same media coverage of the JFK assassination, I don't think anybody in their right mind would care at all if somebody like Candace Owens was questioning what we were being told. We look back on the JFK assassination right now and you go, yeah, it just doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up. The gun, the shooter, the angle, the accuracy, it just doesn't add up. And yet this is literally exactly the same thing. None of it with Charlie Kirk and his assassination adds up. The shooter, the gun, the location, the trajectory of the bullet, the angle, the actual gunshot wound itself. There's so many inconsistencies, and so many people out there are just pushing, in my opinion, just bullshit. And it's exposing them, in my opinion, more than it is exposing Candace Owens. And what I mean by that is this. I can name on multiple hands how many people are turning their back on, and not Candace Owens, because I could care less if you support her or not, turning their back on just genuinely looking into an event, questioning the narrative, asking questions. Glenn Beck. Grew up listening to Glenn Beck with my dad. For a long, long time, I considered Glenn Beck one of my political heroes. Call it what you will. I don't like Glenn Beck anymore. I don't. Same thing with Steve Deace, who is another show host within the Blaze Media Group that Glenn Beck owns. Both of them have called Candace Owens out. Steve Deace specifically calls Candace Owens on a weekly basis a demon, possessed, a horrible person. And to be honest with you, I think that exposes them more than it does Candace Owens. Because they're trying to divide people, whether you're with Candace Owens or you're against Candace Owens. And I don't think that's how it should be. More recently in the news, you have people like, obviously Ben Shapiro, completely disregarding what Candace Owens is doing, calling it horrible what she's doing. You have people like Tim Pool. If you don't know who Tim Pool is, completely fine with that. But I call him Beanie Shapiro because he's just, take Ben Shapiro, put a beanie on him. That's Tim Pool. All of these people are completely against Candace Owens asking questions. Now, does Candace Owens do it in the right way 100% of the time? No. Do I agree with what she's doing? In general, yes. I think what she's doing is something that Charlie Kirk would be very proud of and would support. And the reason why I say that is because of what Charlie Kirk says in this video. So we're going to take a minute. We're going to watch this video real quick because this is exactly, in my opinion, how it should be.
Candace says, but you know what I don't do? I don't stop being friends with people just because people morally blackmail me. I don't do that, and you shouldn't either. Look, I have different views on things as Candace. I have different views on Israel than Candace. I have different views on a lot of geopolitics. But honestly, I traveled the country with Candace. I went to her wedding. I saw her meet her husband. I went to Israel with Candace, which is a fun story I'll tell you at some point. But what I don't like is when people demand, you must stop being friends with somebody. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's a left-wing tactic. Don't do that. I'm not saying you do that, but other people do that. We should never resort to that. In fact, if you believe what I believe, shouldn't you want me to be friends with people that don't agree with us? Shouldn't you want me to also be a tool of influence? And so I think the world of Candace. She's a great mother. She certainly has very, very fun opinions at times. And she's a great talent. She says a lot of stuff that sometimes I don't agree with, but that's what makes our relationship and our friendship interesting. My advice to all of you, you might not like somebody, but never tell somebody like me to stop being friends with somebody on an interpersonal level just because of disagreement. It's bad. It's what the left does, and we should rise above it as conservatives. Thank you so much.
So all of these podcasters that I listened to, and that's past tense for a reason, Glenn Beck, Steve Deace, Ben Shapiro, Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, you could even throw in there Steven Crowder. All of these people, they're doing exactly what Charlie Kirk said not to do in that video. Now look, you don't have to listen to Charlie Kirk. You don't have to agree with what he says. There's tons of people who don't agree with what he says. He's not the end-all be-all. But when it comes to this, somebody asking him specifically about Candace Owens and her views, and him saying, look, at the end of the day, I don't have to agree with her on everything. But what I'm not going to do is have you tell me that I can't be friends with her just because of her opinion, just because of a disagreement. That's the world that we're watching. And I mean this. I would encourage you, if you haven't watched it already, go back and watch a video on my Instagram that I posted. When Charlie Kirk died, there was a tear in our society. When he was shot and killed, there was a tear. And the tear we are seeing it started small and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it's leading to the point where you could divide the Republican Party by people who agree with what Candace Owens is doing and people who don't. And this just, there are so many people. I have friends who tell me all the time and have told me that what Candace Owens is doing is going to make the Republican Party lose the midterms. I completely disagree with that narrative, and I'll tell you why. Because I strongly think, unless something drastic happens, Republicans aren't going to lose the midterms because of what Candace Owens is doing. Republicans are going to lose the midterms because there's no deep state officials that have been arrested or held accountable. There's no Epstein list. We still haven't had that happen. We might have a war in Venezuela here soon, and that can pause and completely derail the entire Epstein file, which we'll talk about later. We're going to lose the midterms because we're still sending billions of dollars of taxpayer money to countries that don't support us, countries who aren't our allies, to Israel. Those are the reasons why we're going to lose the midterms. It's not because Candace Owens. It's because we are watching the people that we've elected that were supposed to drain the swamp go to Washington, D.C., completely get rid of all of the evil, get rid of all of the people that are corrupt. We are seeing those officials just basically take their masks off and show us exactly who they are. They're corrupt officials. I'm talking about Trump, talking about Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi. All of these people are just a part of the swamp. They went in with a mop and bucket and they didn't do anything except for mop it up, wring it out, and leave it on the floor again. So I stand strong with that opinion. We are seeing right now a political divide, and it's not because of Candace Owens. It's because people like Ben Shapiro, Glenn Beck, all of these people that were big pillars of the Republican movement, the Republican Party, they now stand up and say things like, you shouldn't listen to Candace Owens. She's a demon. She's demonic. She's possessed. And what she's doing is horrible. We should completely not look into what happened to Charlie Kirk. We should just trust the narrative. We should trust that Tyler Robinson is the one that did it, and we should just turn a blind eye to it all. When there's so much evidence to the contrary of that they just completely are ignoring it. They're the ones that are going to cause the divide. They're the ones causing the divide. It's not because Candace Owens is trying her best to look into things. It's not because she's calling out Erica Kirk. She's not calling out it, not because she's calling out Turning Point USA. It's because she's asking questions as to why one of her best friends were shot and killed and why it's just been completely wiped, pushed under the rug, cut, clear, clean. Tyler Robinson did it. Let's move on. So I don't think this whole divide is happening because of Candace Owens. It's not. It's happening because of big political names telling you that you shouldn't listen to her, that you should unfollow her, that you should pray for her, but that you should basically just not listen to anything that she's saying because she is possessed. So the reason why I bring all of this up is because right now what we are seeing is eventually it's the climax of all of this. Ever since Charlie Kirk was assassinated and killed, Candace Owens has been calling out Turning Point USA, making very, very specific and broad allegations against their organization, against their money, against their leaders, against their new, obviously Erica Kirk is the new CEO, right? Not even a week after her husband's shot and killed, she just decides to step in as the CEO. That's a little alarming. That's just my opinion. Instead of taking on all of this at the time that it's happening, Turning Point USA basically just ignored it all until they couldn't ignore it anymore. And that's exactly where we find ourselves today. So what's happening now? Well, we have Turning Point USA calling out Erica Kirk, Candace Owens, and asking her to come on the show, asking her to come on to basically let all of it out, air out everything so that they can rebuttal everything that she's saying, that they can add clarity to everything that she's accused them of. So we saw this happen a couple of days ago. So Turning Point USA from Charlie Kirk's show a few days ago decided that they would call her out and say, okay, cool. This is the tweet by Blake Neff. And this was December 3rd, the 4th. Blake tweets, yesterday we made it clear that we would be scheduling a formal response to the allegations and accusations you have made, directed obviously at Candace. We've decided that response will be delivered during a live stream on December 15th. Thank you for your response, letting us know you will not be joining the show. So, and there's a tweet before that. I guess I should have added more clarity. They basically, Candace Owens said, in summary, you pick the day, you pick the time, you pick the place, I'll be there, we'll do the show, we'll make it happen. They don't call her people. They don't call her. They don't even send any notice. They basically just tweet at Candace Owens and say that we're doing the show on December 15th. We're doing it at, I think it was like 2:00 Eastern time. And that's when we're doing it. Hope to see you there. You have to be in person, right? She tweets back and basically says, I don't know why you didn't like come out and call me or contact me. I can't do it that day. I can't do it at that time because that's literally the same time that I do my show. But I can't be in person. But if you want me to be there for that show, I can do it over Zoom and I can basically forego my show for that day. That's when this tweet comes in response. And she replies back to the tweet that I just read from Blake Neff. It has been decided by the public that the best response for this is for my team to live stream your live stream and provide commentary. Since you already picked our regularly podcasting time, we look forward to providing live responses to your once and for all answers. Why is this important? Why am I bringing this up? If you're following any of these political commentators, podcasters, talk show hosts, whatever, they're calling out Candace Owens because she is not agreeing to be in Phoenix at the Turning Point USA headquarter location in person for this show. She asked for a virtual link. She asked it to be sent over so that she could do it virtually. And people are calling her out like crazy for this because she's not going to be there in person, because she doesn't agree to be there in person. I don't blame her at all. This is my take on it. Turning Point USA already has a really, really bad history of keeping their people or people safe, just in general, blanket statement. Obviously, I'm talking about Charlie Kirk being assassinated. They clearly don't have the best track record. So for her to ask to do it virtually, I see no problem with. But all of these people are calling her out and saying, you have to do it in person. It has to be in person or not at all, which is what Turning Point USA basically said, them and Blake Neff. Has to be in person. We can't do it over virtual. We can't send you a Zoom link. It has to be done this way or not at all. When that same show, the Charlie Kirk show that's being ran right now, without Charlie Kirk, obviously, by Blake Neff and other people, they do virtual interviews or virtual guests all the freaking time. So why is it now all of a sudden not something that they're willing to do, not something that they're going to even entertain? They basically just said, if you can't be there, be square. You're just done. We're not going to have you on the show. We're not going to answer your questions. We're not going to have a discussion live. You can do whatever you want, but we're not pandering to that. This is my opinion. And I had to write down some of my thoughts. So I'm going to be reading these because, like I said, haven't done a show in 2 weeks, had a lot of thoughts, so I started writing these down. So these are some thoughts that I had as to why this is happening. Okay? They're not looking for a debate. Turning Point USA, Blake Neff, the other hosts of the Charlie Kirk show, they're not looking to debate Candace Owens. What they're looking for is they're looking for containment. They're looking for control. What we're seeing with them and with Candace, it's not, in my opinion, it has nothing to do with schedules. It has nothing to do with logistics, in person versus over Zoom. It's all about controlling the narrative bandwidth. So when a system or when an organization, enter in any random organization, let's use Turning Point USA, for example, when they feel threatened or trapped, what it does is it does two things. And this is for any organization or for any system. When it does two things when it feels threatened. The first thing it does is it tries to trap the threat in a controlled environment, i.e., you have to be in person in Phoenix, Arizona, in order for us to have any sort of a discussion about your investigation into what happened to Charlie Kirk. It tries to trap the threat in a controlled environment. First thing. Second thing it does is it avoids real-time fact-checking at all costs. completely avoids it. And in a in-person setting, that's exactly what it does. It completely gets rid of any capability or any possible way of fact-checking any claims or statements. So if you watch the pattern, this is what happened with Turning Point USA and Candace Owens. It was an offer that came through at midnight by Blake Neff. Come on the show. You have to be in person. We're doing it on December 15th at this time. He gave her 24 hours ultimatum. Get back to us. Let us know. The offer isn't going to stand for long. They refuse to send a virtual link. And suddenly they insist that in-person has to be the only way that they can do this. It's basically sacred doctrine to Turning Point USA and the Charlie Kirk Show that all guests have to be in person. Despite the fact, like I said before, that they've always done and continue to do virtual in-person guests all the time. So why is there inconsistency with other guests and with Candace Owens? Because in my opinion, Candace Owens is the only person in this situation that's capable of breaking the narrative in real time and exposing the internal contradictions that are happening every single day in Turning Point USA. Their entire infrastructure is built on commentary. It's scrollable, it's editable, it's post-fact narratives. But the real-time signal or real-time in-person debate is completely different. So here's what I would have all of us ask. And this is what I have been asking myself for the entire last week. Why does the truth require Candace to be in person in Phoenix in order for this debate or discussion to happen? And going on, when the system cracks, the weakest points are going to reveal themselves first. And Turning Point USA has exposed and showed us exactly what they're holding in their hand, has showed us their cards. They wanted her on their turf, using their tech, on their timing, surrounded by their people, their handlers, with zero room to pivot, zero room to redirect, no room to go off script. That's not a debate at all. It's not a discussion. That, in my opinion, is an ambush. It's the entire outline for the architect of an ambush. So the moment that Candace says, well, I can't do it in person that day, but why don't you send a link? Turning Point USA panics. And what do? What's their response? The response is absolutely not, because a virtual debate removes environmental control. They no longer control how that is going to happen. They no longer control the debate, the style, the structure, none of it. It becomes just pure signal at that point. So there's no interference. So in that scenario, in that setting, truth will always win. It'll always rise to the top, just like cream. So here's the part that nobody, in my opinion, wants to say out loud. Everything changed, and I've said this, after Charlie Kirk was killed. This didn't come out of nowhere. It just didn't come out of the woodwork. It erupted after he was assassinated. The entire the entire process of how we see truth, we listen to truth, we expose truth, it all changed. There was a giant collapse. And so suddenly there's allegations, there's money questions, there's strange references, there's leadership instability, there's donors demanding receipts from Turning Point USA. And so what does that insecure system do? They're not going to attack the wound. They're not going to go after what's happened with Charlie Kirk being killed. They're going to go after the people that are the whistleblowers, the people that are asking questions. And in this case, it just happens to be Candace Owens. So Candace isn't the threat in this entire situation. For the last couple of weeks since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Candace Owens is not the threat to Turning Point USA. What is the truth. The truth is the threat to Turning Point USA. And in my opinion, Candace Owens carries the truth. She's the one that's been investigating this like nobody's business. If you've listened to her show, if you've listened to her podcast, which I would encourage you to do, not because I think everything she says is true, not because I think she's just dead on for every single thing that she brings up. There's a lot that I think you're reaching at this point. But she's the only one that's been doing any sort of research into why, how, and who killed Charlie Kirk. She's the only one. While everyone else out there isn't asking questions, they're out there saying, you probably shouldn't be asking questions. You're a horrible person for asking questions. You're a demon. You're demonic. You're possessed. She's the only one that's asking questions. So in my opinion, that's why Turning Point USA is losing their mind right now. And that's why they don't agree to the virtual interview or debate, is because that isn't on their turf. It's not controlled by them. You can fact check people all you want if it's virtual. And so because they don't control that entire scenario, they are now completely against that scenario from even happening. So what do? They pivot. They say, well, if you can't make it in person that day and that time, I guess we're just not going to have a discussion with you. We'll just have our show and we'll address everything that you brought up and all the questions that you've, uncovered. So instead of transparency with this entire thing, we get theatrics from Turning Point USA. Instead of a link, we get an ultimatum. Instead of clarity, we basically get crisis PR. So Turning Point USA is scrambling. December 15th is when they're going to have it happen. I'm going to be watching the live feed with Candace Owens only because I want to hear what her commentary is or her response is to what their claims are or the answers to their questions. But overall, I think that, call this whatever you want, I don't think it's political drama. What I think it is it's the collapse of the old power structure that's trying but failing to basically just hold on to any of the truth that it can't contain. So, I mean, I've got lots of opinions, of course. Hence the reason why I started the podcast was to voice those opinions. I don't trust the narrative. I don't trust the people that gave us the narrative. I don't trust the people that are involved in the narrative. I think it all smells super, super funny. I think if it walks like a chicken, if it clucks like a chicken, if it looks like a chicken, smells like a chicken, it's a chicken, right? Or a duck, whatever the phrase is. I think what we're going to see is we're not going to get a lot of answers to the questions that Candace Owens has brought up. We're not going to get a lot of clarity. We're just going to have the entire thing dramatized, drawn out, and we're not going to have any more answers than we already do. Now, it'll, only time will tell. We'll just have to wait and see. So that will be exciting, and I'm excited to view all of that. Last little bit of what I wanted to talk about today. It's about Christmas. Obviously, we're in the Christmas holiday season, and there's a reason why we celebrate Christmas. It's because of Jesus Christ. I think that's pretty clear with the name Christmas. But I've seen more and more videos on my feed across social accounts. Maybe you've seen them, maybe you haven't. If you follow me, I've shared them on my story. I've seen more and more videos as of recently from a certain group of people who have taken upon it themselves to either take over Christmas, call out Christmas, or to basically outright say that they are the reason why our Christmas is the way that it is. And what I mean by that is I want to watch 2 quick videos that highlight exactly what I'm talking about. So these videos are the following. So here we go.
Coleman Samuels, the founder of the charity Shaluva, with a special message from Israel.
The word shalva is mentioned only once in the entire Bible, referring to Jerusalem. May there be peace in your wall, shalva, meaning serenity, in your palaces. And it is that serenity and inclusion that we must seek to provide for all during this holiday season. True celebration is only possible when every person, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, or ability, has a place at the table, a song to sing, and is part of the warmth and togetherness that enable their light to shine. Inclusion is not just a value, it's a call to action and a most meaningful way of life. My heartfelt blessing for a happy holiday is that God will fill your homes with good health, joy, light, laughter, and so much love.
Here's Rabbi Coleman Samuels, the founder.
So if you're listening, obviously you heard it. If you're watching, you got to watch it as well. Here's the issue that I take with this video. I don't understand why is there a Jewish rabbi giving us a Christmas message? Why is he the one that they say, you know what? Yeah, let's bring him on. And in the start of the Christmas season, let's have a message from him. You have so many other religious leaders who believe in Christ as the Savior of the world, as the Son of God, as God, that you could get a message from. And yet you choose that the best one that you should get the message from is a Jewish rabbi? I've got nothing against the Jewish religion except for the fact that they don't believe in what we believe in. If you're a Christian, the Jewish religion believes that Christ is not the Son of God, that he was not a prophet, that he was somebody who tried to lead a revolt against the Jewish rabbis, and he was caught, he was killed, and he deserved what he got, and he is in hell. That's what they believe in. And that's not from just my interpretation. That's from texts. That's from multiple different Jewish pastors or Jewish rabbis have come out and said, that's just, it's clear. It's cut and dry. So my question is this: why are we all of a sudden now expecting that we have to be inclusive? Why do we? No, I mean, in my opinion, no. Christmas is a Christian holiday. And we don't have to now basically allow a Jewish rabbi to give us advice for the Christmas holiday. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I think I'll pass. I think I'll turn to the Bible. I'll turn to my beliefs. I'll turn to church leaders that are Christians. I'll listen to them. I think this plays into a way bigger topic that we're going to cover on Friday. Israel, the Jews, the Israeli government is being crammed down our throats right now in America. And if you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to open your eyes and wake up. Ever since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, for some weird reason, Israel has just been in our faces for the last, 3 months now? And I think there's a very dark and a very specific reason as to why that's happening, and we're gonna dive deep into that on Friday. But this type of shit, I'm not for. I'm not. Now, I'm not anti-Semitic, but I can't stand the fact that we're now supposed to just allow a Jewish rabbi to give us a Christmas message. Judaism teaches that Christ was not the Messiah, he was not the Savior, and I don't really remember a Christian pastor getting the TV limelight for Yom Kippur. You know, I don't remember seeing news hosts saying, "Well, we're going to throw it down to our local bishop or local Catholic priest to give you a Jewish message for Yom Kippur. Take it away, Father." That didn't happen. So now that we're getting a Christian or Christmas message from a rabbi, it's not the fact that he's not a Christian, but it's the fact that they teach what they teach. I'm not for that. I think there's a specific reason why that's happening, and I think I'll just leave it at that because we're going to dive into it on Friday. But if you think that it ended there, and if you think that was all, it's not. We also get this video that I'll pull up here. Had to find it. Here we go.
Be Christmas the way you know it. Look at that. Because, you know, Irving Berlin wrote White Christmas and redefined Christmas music. Until then, it was all like Jesus music. And now all the iconic Christmas songs were all written by Jews. And if you look into it, this is really interesting. If you look into it, you'll see that the ones that touch you the most are all about nostalgia. They're all this yearning for probably this perfect Christmas that never was. But it's all interesting because these are immigrants, children of Jewish immigrants. And if you want to take it a step further, you could say that all they did was tap into their desire for the Alteheim. That nostalgia for the Alteheim. And if you want to go a step even to make it even more heimish, to go further, you could take that is the yearning of the Jew for the Beis HaMikdash.
Aha, this is very deep.
If it wasn't for us,
Still pissed off. I still don't get it. And you can look back on, there's so many Christmas songs that were composed or written by Jewish people. Now look, they're here. It's not like you're going to completely avoid them. But when you start to look at all of the ones, it's like all of the popular songs, all of the popular Christmas movies, and not just the songs like Silent Night or, you know, Away in a Manger. Not those ones. We're talking about like the ones that distract you from the true meaning of Christmas. Those are the ones that are written, composed, or movies that are produced by Jewish people. So now they're basically just saying, hey, look, we don't honor him or respect him or even acknowledge that Jesus Christ is the Savior or Messiah. But on top of that, let's ruin his birthday and that holiday that Christians hold so dear by just completely distracting you from what the true meaning is. Now, I say all of this not to attack their faith, not to attack who they are or what they believe in. That's not what I'm doing. I say all of this to say, wake up. And this Christmas, this holiday season, focus a little bit more on the true meaning. Focus a little bit more on Jesus Christ. Take time to put away the distractions, to listen to Christmas music, not Jingle Bell Rock or, you know, all the other songs that we love, but don't keep us centered on the true meaning. Take time this Christmas to actually put Christ back into Christmas. To me, that's the most important thing. So, love me, hate me, disagree with me. I don't care. That's my opinion. There it is. It's worth what it's worth. But that's it for us today. That's the end of the show. We'll be back Friday with a lot more to discuss, a lot more things to go over. Current news cycle is what we're going to be hitting. So hopefully we are able to pull some topics out of it. I always have said it, should have said it earlier. Like, comment, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening on Apple Music or Spotify. Send it, share it. Call me out for something that you disagree with. Just engage at this point. I could care less what you do, but anything helps to support what we're trying to do here. So, hope all of you have a safe day. We wish you the best on this glorious Wednesday. Hope you have a good one, and we will see you back on Friday. Take care.